Hey guys, this is week 47 Project Life, and today I am working with the brand new Now and Then kit from Feed Your Craft and Brandi Kincaid. This is Brandi's last collaboration with Feed Your Craft, and it is a great one. So I will leave the link for you in the description box. Make sure you head over to the Feed Your Craft store and pick one up for yourself. Now I'm just starting by going through all of the fabulous cards. I knew I wanted to use that file folder one for my title card because I love that sort of style of card. The colors are just so pretty too. So I paired that with a blue note card kind of paper, on the 4x6 down the bottom. And I'm just struggling to pick out some 3x4 cards for the two spots I have this week. One is going to go behind a photo here, and the other I want to do some journaling on. So I decided in the end, because of all the colors and the cards that I've used and the photos that I've got, to just go a little bit plainer with these two 3x4s. So I have pulled out some white cardstock from my stash, and I just flipped one of the cards over to see whether I wanted to use the back side. They've got a really pretty polka dot on them. And I also pulled out some of the other cards that I might be able to cut apart and use as embellishments later on. But for now, I'm just gonna crack into it and start working and see how I go. The stamp set for this kit is really cute. There's all sorts of like buildable stamps in here, and that's what I'm going to use on this first one. It says handle with care, and then there's this really cute little ribbon bow stamp that can go over the top of it. So I've stamped those onto the photo of my yoga mat here. The other thing I want to do this week is there's a whole set of numbers on this stamp set, and I want to use that as my journaling. I really do love numbered journaling. Any sort of list journaling makes it so much easier for me to write. It's like having that kind of starting point rather than just a blank slate just makes it so much easier. So what I do want to do is stamp onto all of my photos here numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But for that handle with care photo there, I wasn't sure whether to stamp the number in black or white ink. So I've just decided to sort of work on the rest of my spread a little bit first before making that decision, just in case I go the wrong way. So I'm gonna start down here with the Now and Then stamps from the stamp set. I've got a couple of photos down here. One, I'm gonna stamp this Now onto the blue card, and the Then I'm gonna stamp directly onto my photo. Now I really loved the pencils on this card, but you know me, I'm not a massive fan of green, so what I decided to do was fussy cut out the pencil and use it kind of as an embellishment instead of using the whole card there. And doing that, it gives me 4 other pencils to use too, so that's 5 little embellishments out of one card, and I think that's pretty good value for money. So I'm just trimming this one out. I've got those, are they Cutter-Bee scissors? Mine are super not sharp anymore. I don't quite know what to do. I've done everything I can to try and sharpen those up, but they've sort of lost their sharp edge. Now I'm going to do my journaling directly onto the journaling card with my typewriter, and I'm going to just type it straight into underneath the Now. So that's why I stamped the Now first, and I just really glued a little bit, used a little bit of tape runner to glue it to a scrap piece of paper so that I could run that through my typewriter. I do this a lot. If you've got like temporary adhesive, that would probably work too, but mine's permanent adhesive, so when I pull it off the scrap paper, I just add a couple of pieces of washi tape onto the back to take away any stickiness, and it works really nicely. So I did my journaling, and I can just stick down my photo now. I tend to stick the photos down after I've done it in case it sort of gets caught in my typewriter. It is just a vintage typewriter, so it's not particularly reliable, so I use all these little tricks to try and force these cards through it. And then I just glued the little pencil down underneath it, so the Now is kind of sitting on top of the pencil. And that's something I'm going to do a lot through this spread. I really like how that worked out, so I'm going to do that same sort of I guess shelf treatment more than once here. Now the reason I've been grabbing little bits of scrap paper and stamping the stamps a few times before I actually go to stamp them is these are brand new stamps. They're a brand new stamp set, and it pays just to sort of season the stamps a little bit. There's lots of ways you can do that. I used a sand eraser. You can stamp them with, say, a Versamark ink, or another way is just to stamp them a few times on a scrap paper first to just sort of coats the stamp a little bit, takes off some of that gloss, and just you get a crisper, more sort of consistent stamp that way. So I stamped then straight onto my photo. You could see the stamp did get stuck onto the photo paper a little bit, and that can happen especially with newer stamps. They're a little bit sticky. I just carefully peeled that off and then it carried on. This stamp photo here with the ice cream, I was wondering about embellishing it or maybe stamping in the circle stamp, but I decided to just calm the farm and keep it a little bit more simple. So I just stamped the number 3 into the white space there. The numbering I'm doing on the photos isn't exactly chronological. It's more numbering just down my spread. So yeah, I don't know if they're in that particular order during the week, but that's the order that I'm going to do the journaling in. Now for the white card, I decided to do a little bit of, it's not so much repeat stamping, it's more sort of random stamping. And I grabbed the little flower stamp from the stamp set, and you can see there I stamped all over the white card in black ink, but I sort of changed my mind. I didn't like the black. It fought with the photo a little bit, and I wanted something a little bit lighter and more subtle. So I went and grabbed a couple of different pink inks. I think it's a Girl and Sweet 16 from Catherine Paula, and I'm just randomly sort of alternating those around the card. You can see I only need to do around the edges really. The middle of the card gets covered up by the photo, but I just like it as a little bit more subtle, and it does add a little bit more color, which I like rather than the black and white. So all I'm going to do is stick my photo down on here, and I do need to stamp my number again. I've got a nice area of sort of darkness in this photo, so I am definitely going to stamp in white ink. And you'll see me trying a number of different ways to line up this number stamp with the actual numbers. And this one probably works the best to put them upside down on my desk and just pick them both up on the block. That stamps nicely, so I've got 2 numbered stamps there now. And I really like how they're just stamped just onto the blank space there. Now here's where I decided I really liked the sort of shelf look of that pencil, and I'm going to replicate the same thing with some washi tape. So I'm going to add a lot of sort of horizontal lines basically, so that the first one was just a little bit of tape to hold, in quote marks, hold that square photo down. And then this is where I created the shelf. I've used kind of a copper colored washi tape there to create the shelf underneath the word then, and I'm just going to stamp my number 4 just on top of the shelf as well, next to the word then. So it kind of reads then number 4, but it isn't necessarily how it's supposed to read. So now I've kind of got a theme of how I'm doing this, so I'm going to go back and stamp the number 5 on my photo here, and I did decide to go with black. I haven't been using too much sort of subtlety in this spread so far. It's all been sort of high contrast, so the black worked fine. And I did specifically stamp over the top of my toes there, just because feet photos creep me out, and it was sort of trying to disguise that just a little bit. This photo I sort of really struggled with. I had a few different ideas. I do have a blank space in the photo, and that's where I wanted to put some sort of embellishment. I just wasn't really sure what that was going to be, and I because I'm going to do my journaling elsewhere, it's not that I need a space to put journaling on. I just kind of want to fill up the blank space a little bit. So I sort of auditioned a couple of different pieces from journaling cards, and they didn't feel right. I couldn't see anything on the stamp set that would work. I cut out one of the journal card pieces and tried that, and it didn't work. So I wasn't going to go ahead and trim out the second one either. So in the end, I decided to trim out one of these, banners, the little round pieces from this journaling card. I didn't want to use the whole journaling card. I just wanted to use the one piece of blue just to add a little bit of color into the photo. There's not much blue in this, and there is a lot of light blue through the spread. So I'm just trimming that out, and I just trimmed out the 3. I didn't trim the little half piece on the end there, and I'm going to use this as my shelf this time. So I want to put some sort of sentiment on top of that, and like I said, I'd already looked through that stamp set and there wasn't really one that was appropriate for this, but I did really like the sentiment this journaling card. So I trimmed out the one that was highlighted. You can still probably use the entirety of the rest of that card, just filling it in with some washi tape or something else. So I keep all these other little bits and pieces, and I will probably use them later elsewhere. So I glued the bubbly banner piece down, glued my sentiment on top, and then just stamped into some more clear space on my photo. Now I'm up to doing my journaling. I've stamped all my numbers now, so I'm going to do my journaling again just on a plain card. I decided the polka dots are probably going to end up sort of fighting with everything else. So what I want to do is stamp my numbers down the left hand side and then journal on the right. So I just stamped one number so that I could work out the spacing, did my journaling, and then I'm going to go back in and stamp the rest of the numbers. The reason is that I didn't know how much each little piece of journaling was going to take. So this way I can get everything spaced out really nicely, and it doesn't matter whether one sort of paragraph of journaling took more than the other, because I can stamp my stamps next to the corresponding space. And again, I chose that same pink ink to do that, just so it wasn't fighting with the journaling, just trying to keep it a little bit more subtle. It still corresponds to each photo, but the whole journaling card doesn't sort of fight for attention on the spread. Did have that funny little weird space at the bottom of it, so I filled that up with a little bit of washi tape too, again just to add a little bit more colour. Now for my title card, this is going to be super simple because the card is already designed to be pretty cute on its own. I just need to add a title on here, and I'm going to use the Apollo Alpha from Feed Your Craft as well. That's new in the shop today too. So I'm just stamping that out. I was worried about how it would stamp onto the card. The card obviously has quite a lot of printing on it, but it stamps beautifully even with just my plain dye ink. So I'm stamped out week, and then I'm using the tiny little numbers from the Now and Then stamp set just to give me a week number. And I didn't want to add a label this week for my date stamping. It was gonna sort of fight, I think, with the kind of labels that are already there on those file folders, so I'm just stamping it directly underneath. The stamping for my date stamping was a little bit of a fail. I used paper instead of those clear stamp backings, and that was a mistake. The beauty of those clear stamp backings for masking like that is you can actually see what you're doing, so lesson learned. I didn't like the way the week wasn't standing out very much. I wanted it to be white. The white labels on those file folders again are just taking up too much dominance, so I used a white gel pen, and I'll show you the one I used. It was brand new. It's from Pilot. It was an 07 white. I think it's called Poplo pen. I tried a couple of other ones, the Jelly Roll and just this pen from Smiggle, but this one actually worked the best. It took a little bit of time to get it reasonably opaque, but it's as close as I'm going to get it to white, and I think it helps it stand out a little bit more. And that is this week all done. Like I said, I will leave a link to the store down below in the description box, but this one will not be around for long, I would imagine, so head over there and pick one up for yourself. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there's a couple more videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye guys.